Hi everybody, it's Russell Markham here from VectorVest, and great to see so many of you here today. Green renewable stocks are in high demand. Okay, so without further ado, what I'll do here is I'll switch over the screen very shortly. My name's Russell Markham. I'm the Director of Education for VectorVest Australia. So look forward to presenting this to you today. So let's move this over. So we'll transition across. There we go. So green renewable stocks. A lot of talk about this hot topic at the moment. You know, a lot of fund managers putting more and more green stocks into their portfolios. A lot of investors like you and I are looking also to put some green stocks into our portfolio. Certainly that's been our feedback in recent months here at VectorVest. Okay, so without further ado here, let's jump into the slide sets here. Just so you know, just so you're aware here, there are our license numbers. You can also refer to our financial services guide on our homepage. Just next slide here. Any advice is general advice and does not consider your personal objectives, financial situations or needs. You should consider whether the advice is suitable for you and your personal circumstances. Okay, so I'm licensed to give general advice only. I can't give personal advice. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Forecasts and back tests used or discussed in this presentation are intended as a guide only, and actual results may be affected by known or unknown risks and uncertainties, and therefore may differ materially from the results ultimately achieved. Okay, with that said, let's get into it. So first up, a few of you, and I'll just transition across here. If I said to you, what are green stocks? We've got different views out there. What I've done here, and I'll just transition across back here, is I've gone to a source there, smartcapitalmind.com, did a great definition. So they note there, effectively, green stocks are investments associated with companies that are somehow involved in the protection of the environment. The stocks may be issued by companies that produce goods or services using environmentally friendly materials or methods, or companies that have chosen to make changes in their operational structures as a means of reducing their impact on the local and global ecology. Some examples of green stocks include energy companies that market and promote the use of wind and other alternative energies, or even businesses that utilize recycled materials in order to manufacture new products. All right, so you can see it's a big new emerging market there, and encompasses a lot of different types of stocks. All right, so with that said, let's jump into the next slide here. So let's set the general picture at the moment. So that definition there spoke about different ways of being green, and one of the ways was using renewable type energy. So just taking a sort of a world global type picture here, I've got a slide here from shrinkthatfootprint.com. They did a very interesting graph there, and it just shows you the different ways of generating electricity and the impact of carbon being released on those different ways. You can see the green energy, so to speak, hydro, ocean, wind, nuclear, biomass. Now, there's a lot of argument around nuclear, of course, biomass, solar, geothermal, solar. Right, so these here are these methods here produce small amounts of CO2 relative to natural gas, oil, and coal. So coal's the heaviest out of these three here. A lot of our energy here in Australia comes from coal and oil and natural gas. Okay, but we are starting to pick up in solar production. A lot of us here have got rooftop solar in Australia. I think it's 1 in 4 odd households on average now have a solar type system of some sort. All right, so green stocks include businesses in wind, solar, hydroelectricity, recycled materials, hydrogen energy, waste management, companies associated with assisting green companies. That's just some of the snapshots there for you. So let's look at renewable costs in terms of how much it costs to produce, in this case here, a megawatt hour. So Wikipedia here had a great slide snapshot. I used to be a former energy analyst, so there's a lot of debate as to how that's calculated. It depends where you are in the world, because of course, if you're here in Australia, getting access to coal is a lot cheaper than, say, being on the other side of the world, where shipping costs might add to the total costs, etc., etc. So a lot of different factors that go in, but on average, this is the calculations here. I'm not so concerned about the actual number itself. it's more the trend. So you can see here, look, solar panels, look at that, the costs there of producing a megawatt hour have come down dramatically. It's now cheaper to produce a megawatt hour than it is to produce using natural gas or coal. But as a lot of energy analysts out there will point out, to say, well, sure it is, but you still need, you know, consistent sunshine. What happens if there's a big storm like there has been recently and there's no sun for a couple of days, right? So that's where coal comes in, because effectively it provides consistent base load. But if we get enough natural gas, wind and solar, for example, projects, then there might be a move away from coal, for example. But it's just interesting to see the trend as it's taking place. All right, here is an example from the US, which is really interesting. So US coal and renewable energy consumption, 1950 to 2019, which was provided by the US Energy Information Administration. So you can see here the dependence on coal is starting to fall away quite dramatically. And you can see in its place has come in hydro, wood, waste, biofuels, geothermal, wind, solar. So you can see how the dependence on coal is starting to claw back. So, you know, it'd be interesting to see the type of stocks involved in this new emerging industry, which is eating into a traditional industry. All right, so moving on a bit more, you can see here in Australia, for example, you know, coming back to the green stock type theme. Here we are from, 1994 to 2020. So from energy.gov.au, and they're showing there, for example, you can see hydro, it's been quite consistent. Wind's picking up, so wind turbine technology, bioenergy, and solar. Look at that, look how solar is really starting to pick up. This is in gigawatt hours on the left-hand side here. It's not, I'm not so concerned about the numbers and the metrics, it's more the trend. You can start to see the trend of renewables picking up. Global energy consumption, I thought this was quite an interesting one done by Wikipedia. So you can see global energy consumption 2000 to 2020, and you can see, you know, where it came from. So you can see big dependence there on coal and oil, and we saw coal and oil are some of the biggest CO2 emitters. Natural gas is the third biggest, and then nuclear, hydro, and other renewables. But look at the trend of other renewables. See, it's starting to pick up. It was just a blip on the radar in 2020, should I say in 2000, and now in 2020, it's sort of coming up there, you know. So you've got others, hydro. Australia could become a super powerful hydro type production. You know, there's all sorts of projects taking place there. Hydro water, but also hydrogen is another big project being touted there in the different states. All right, so the trend is definitely picking up, but a long way to go yet to eat into the traditional heavy CO2 type emitter fuels. All right, so here we are, Energy Information Administration, EIA in the US, for example, just you know, taking a snapshot from around the world. So world energy consumption by energy source, so done by the Energy Information Administration in the US, but this is for world, right? World energy consumption, 1990, and then forecasted out to 2040. I thought this was interesting. So you can see historically, so you can see petroleum, other liquids, you can see here natural gas, coal. Notice from 2015 onwards, their forecast was showing coal to effectively flatline and decline. You can see, look, this is what is really interesting. You can see how renewables are really starting to come into play now, and you know, beyond 2040, it looks like renewables will almost be on par with what coal provides. You can see a big uplift forecast globally there for natural gas. Natural gas, as we saw, was not as heavy in terms of CO2 production as what we saw from coal and oil. So you can see the world is definitely trying to move away from CO2 intensive type energy production. All right, so just going back to the slide, you see EIA projects 28% increase in world energy use by 2040. All right, so you know, a big uplift in demand as populations around the world continue to grow, but it's interesting to see that a lot of the cleaner energies will pick up that excess demand required relative to where it is now. Right, so I'm going to jump into VectorVest, and I'm going to give you a quick breakdown of some of the key energy companies out there, and or should I say green companies. A lot of them are in the energy game, but a lot of the green stocks. And before I do so, there were two that jumped out. Again, I can't give advice, all right? So just generally speaking, using the VectorVest system, there were two that jumped out at me, and we can have a look at them shortly. So IGO, so it's a mining company that mines for lithium, a key ingredient for rechargeable batteries. So we're seeing that big theme there with Tesla type vehicles. It's interesting to see that Tesla makes most of its money by trading green credits, energy credits. So, Tesla's heavily into the game of trading energy credits as such. It's not necessarily all the money made on selling the motor cars. On here, an IGO is heavily into environmental management. So the reason I put .AX in VectorVest, we put in .AX to denominate our stocks in Australia. We'll get into that now. It's one of the best rate of financial green stocks that we track. As of 1 March 2022, IGO is up over 8% for 2022 year to date. So up 8% for 2022. And IGO returned 18% in 2021 and 25% in 2020. The other one that jumped out at me was Sims, SGM ticker code. This company is the largest metal recycler here in Australia, but not just in Australia, but in the world. Sims also recycles electronic scraps. You can see those rising earnings, and we'll jump into that. You can see Sims was recently granted a development approval by Brisbane City Council to develop the Sims Resource Renewable Facility, which will be operational in 2022, this year. Sims was recently granted development approval 2022. All right, so the next bullet point I wanted to cover. Sims will roll out several facilities around the world by 2030. In addition, Sims is looking at producing hydrogen for sale. So back in 2020, Sims rolled out a state-of-the-art recycling plant, should I say, in Victoria. Okay, so with that said, let's jump into VectorVest. So in VectorVest, if you take out a subscription, for those of you attending today who are subscribers, it's very easy. You just simply jump into VectorVest, click on the viewers, go to your watch list and open up overview watch lists. And within there is our list of green stocks that we track. So you can see there are a total of 37. Now, if I have a look at all these different stocks up here, you can see here Sims. So let me show you why Sims jumped out at me. So you can see here over last year, look, it's surging up. It's been fairly volatile. Don't get me wrong, it's jumping up, but it's had a volatile ride in recent years. But this is what's really pleasing. It's this. I'll just make that jump out just a tad more there for you. It's easy to do once you get into the VectorVest system. It's fun playing around with the parameters, but you can see here, this is a 12-month leading forecast on earnings. And you can see for Sims, those earnings are really continuing to power on. Okay, so those earnings just continue to track up and up, higher and higher. The rising earnings drive those share prices on average higher. We've seen that correlation over here. So you can see back here, the price, where was the price? If I look at the price here, back here, it was $8, and here it is today, over 18. So it's doubled in price. Okay, so we look at things like earnings. If we look at things like sales, here we are. Let's make this one jump out a bit more, make the style just a little bit easier to see. There we go. You can see a big uplift in sales taking place too. So these are sort of things that we're looking for when identifying green stocks. We want to make sure that these companies are in the game of earning more money, making more sales, and it's good to see. All right, so what I've done for Australia to find you some of the best green stocks, just using the power of VectorVest here, and that is, I'm going to sort these stocks by this indicator here called RT times CI. All right, basically what it means is basically I'm finding the best short-term moving stocks with the best consistent profiles. So to give an example here, Calix Limited CXL. All right, now if I do this, I'll bring it across here. We've got this indicator called CI. It stands for Comfort Index, CI. So on a scale of 0 to 2, I'm going to change the style here, just make it jump out a tad more. Here we go. I'm going to pull it back. Notice here, the CI score, Comfort Index, breaks above 1, around about here, and it was at, what, $1.08. Okay, so $1.08, and look at it today, it's nearly $6. That CI score has not gone below 1. So this is a very telling indicator for when a stock is likely to break out. It doesn't always work out perfectly like this. It might come up and then go back down, but then you're well warned. So I'm finding in Australia a lot of the green stocks are very useful to be discovered by using this powerful CI indicator in combination with relative timing. So if I put on relative timing, and I'll make this an area graph, this is a momentum indicator. So it's looking at the short-term price consistency. So you can see here, CI breaks above 1, and the momentum's positive. See there, it's above 1. All right, here it has a little bit of a breather, but it's come back up again. The CI score says, well, hang on, we're still holding fairly consistent. All right, so when you put the two together, the RT times CI together, multiplied by each other, the highest scores return some of the best stocks in the clean energy game. So you can see here, for example, there's IGO, for example, there's Sims, for example, and you can see I'm wanting to find that score above 1. So all of these stocks here effectively would stack up pretty nicely. Right, so I'm going to do a little exercise here. I'm going to look at all 37 stocks down the bottom. I'll just show you what the average looks like. So I'm going to graph the average of all these stocks. And if I show you this, look, the average CI has been sort of waning as the average green stocks and average have been falling, and the technicals have been a little bit anemic. All right, if I put on the earnings of all of these companies here, let's put on the earnings here, you can see that, well, the earnings have been sort of holding steady, but I'd like to see them rising. So a little bit of a mixed bag. If I come back and I just grab the top RT times CI stocks, and what I've done here just to speed things up, you can create a short list, and I've just put in some of the best ones in here. Here we go, here they are, some of the best RT times CI with the score above 1. So Calix, IGO, Infratil, Cleanaway Waste, Contact Energy, and Sims. All right, so there's IGO and Sims as I noted. All right, let's have a look at the average down the bottom. And let's bring this up. This is what I like to see. See a nice set of, I'll just to emphasize this, so make it jump out again just to make it easy to see. Here we are. A nice set of earnings, great correlation between rising portfolio, rising earnings. Put on my CI. Need to take that score back just a tad bit back there. Here we are, breaks above 1. So the CI there, just above 1, breaks above 1 there. Earnings start to rocket up. So at that point there, this is where we start to see this taking place. And we also start to see our short-term price momentum. Look at that, very nice, holding above 1 apart from 1 or 2 days here. That's what I'm looking for. And look at the performance of that. So it's gone from, what was it, around about $6.30 odd to over $9 currently. So 50%, close to 50% uplift there. All right, so see what you think. Again, I can't advise you what to do. I can only speak from a general perspective here. And from a general perspective here, these stack up very nicely using the power of VectorVest. All right, so there are, what's that, 6 green stocks right now in our shortlist that we're going to monitor further. All right, well, I like the look of that, but what about for the US? Now, the beauty with VectorVest is that once you understand one system, you understand them all. And you'll see here, it's a different color. I've just changed it to be a white background. The reason I've done that there is because it just makes life a little bit easier. Then I won't get confused. All right, so I've got the white background. Okay, I'm now in the US market. Now, what I've done for this exercise here is I identified 49 green stocks. All right, so there's a lot of lists out there that you can get your hands on, publicly available through Google and the likes, and you start to get an idea by putting them all in. So each article that you read or list that's provided to you, plug them all in. I've got a total of 49. Let's go down to the bottom here and just look at the average for the US. All right, so here we are. There's the US. I can see the average of all these. I can see, wow. You can see the US green energy stock industry is a bit more established from what I'm seeing than Australia. It's been around for a bit longer. Maybe there's been a bit more pressure on getting this industry established in the US. And you can definitely see here, look at that, across those 49 stocks, 26 average, it's now up over 60, so it's doubled in price, and those earnings and average continue to power on. So it's very pleasing to see. What I found that what works in a well-established industry like the US green/EV stocks industry is just to shortlist a couple of stocks where those earnings are doing exactly what you want them to do. So just a slight differentiation to what I'm doing in Australia. In Australia, I certainly picked on those rising earnings, because if I come back here to our short list of 6, and I come back to here, we certainly had those rising earnings, right? So definitely doing that. But I also put emphasis on the momentum as well in Australia. Coming back to the US, all right, I put a lot of emphasis on the earnings being a bit more of an established type industry. So here we go, green stock shortlist. There were 4 that jumped out at me in terms of the earnings profile. So no surprises there. Tesla, here's another one here, Solar Edge Tech, SEDG, US ticker code, TE Connectivity, TEL. And they do a lot of work with powering up vehicles with renewable energy, but industrial type vehicles, so vans and trucks. So a very interesting industry they're getting into. I know Tesla's looking and getting into that too. And you've got Maztec Incorporated here. So if I come down to the bottom here, view the watch list average, and again, you know, I can't tell you whether these are suitable for you or not. These were ones that just jumped out from an earnings profile to me. Look at the earnings on these ones here. So, you know, no surprises here. You've got rising earnings, so you can see the average price there was 58. Today it's over $300. You've had an exceptional set of rising earnings taking place. These green energy type companies are very profitable too. The average net profit margin there, 12 cents for every $1 of sales. So on average, they're making 12 cents in the dollar for each sale they're doing. If I look at the sales, those sales are going up. And this was very encouraging to see. So I like to see companies that are growing their sales on average with a solid net profit margin. That bodes well. So there are 4 that jumped out. And all I did was I just simply went through the given list, the green stocks in the US, the 49 identified, and it's just a matter of just simply graphing them and then double checking the earnings profiles. All right, so in this particular case here, I'll just be looking at the profile. Coming off a bit, no, move on to the next one. Definitely not falling away. Look at that, falling share price, falling earnings. So it's just a matter of going through and then identifying, look, Tesla, there we go, up it comes. All right, I was doing some support and resistance analysis on this the other day. All right, so look at that, great set of earnings. So you'd jot that one down and you'd keep going through your list and continue to identify. And that's what I've done here on the shortlist. All right, so there you are. See what you think of those for the US. And for Australia, if I come back here, a few of you might be wondering, how does the net profit margin stack? Look at that, 16 cents for every $1 of sales on average across those 6 stocks that we identified. And if I look at the sales, yep, the sales are coming up as well. Not as aggressive as what we're seeing in the US. We're still a new type industry, but we're up and coming, which is exciting to see. But you're seeing an uplift in those sales. You're seeing a net profit margin holding steady as well. So there you go. So 2 countries identifying some of the best green stocks that we can identify using VectorVest. Speak to your financial advisor as to whether any of those are suitable for you. But there we go. So we promised we would effectively talk about the green stocks, green energy, renewable stocks. It's just interesting to see that change taking place in the industry. So just before we wrap it up here, and let's just hop to this one here. So Solar Edge, SEDG, ticker code in the US market. So it's involved in the development of technologies that provide inverter solutions. SEDG Technologies announced today that the company, so this was a while back there, announced today the company has been selected and will begin to supply fully electric powertrain units and batteries for the production of Fiat e-Ducato light commercial vehicles. So that's solar tech. I might have got confused that I noted earlier that the other company was involved in electric type motors. It was actually Solar Edge Tech, right? So just to clarify that, Solar Edge Tech. So interesting stuff taking place. Very interesting stuff taking place. If I go back just on some of the previous slides there, just, you know, this is interesting. So you can see this forecast. To me, this really jumped out. There is a change taking place. There's a revolution as such taking place in energy. The old stalwarts of coal and oil and gas will certainly still be important for our future, but of more importance in terms of a growth profile, certainly look at the intense uplift in renewables. Right, that's a big increase. Coal's sort of flatlining and falling. Petroleum and other liquids certainly in big demand too, as well as natural gas, but renewables is right up there. Okay, so just flicking forward through there, if you like what you see, you can take it a trial, and each trialist there will be given 30 minutes free consultation by one of our Melbourne-based consultants. You'll get invited to our monthly online VectorVest investment gatherings where we speak about topics like this and much, much more. You'll get access to our weekly videos and essays and access to all our portfolios that we track each day. Okay, so if you want to take it a trial, let me just open up the web page. So it's vectorvest.com.au. It'll automatically revert to vectorvest.com.au, and there we are. So you can click on risk-free trial. Take it a trial and get going with VectorVest. Some wonderful support there. Just before I wrap it up too, if you're not interested in green stocks, I'm assuming most of you are, of course, who've attended today, but if you're interested in other types of strategies and whatever have you, then you can certainly come into here and have a look at some of the other things that we track. So in high demand has been things like consistent dividend paying stocks, you know, the dividend aristocrats. So you can see here some pretty impressive dividends on offer there. You know, if I look at our growth portfolio, we're looking at growth type strategies that have had significant uplift. Each and every one of the portfolios that we track for training and education purposes. We're not fund managers, we're not brokers. We give you the tools so you can track everything using the VectorVest system, build and implement your very own systems. It's easy to use once you get into it. It does take a couple of weeks to get your head around it, but it's well worth the effort, because once you've put the hard yards in to get to learn it, it's not that hard. It's just whether you have the passion or not. If you've got the passion, the rest will follow, and you can do incredibly well using the VectorVest system. It gives you amazing information each and every day. So if I was after a growth portfolio, I could come in here and say, okay, these are the ones that I could consider. So VectorVest has done all the hard work for you. You can come in each and every day and see what you think. And the exercise we did today, for example, we broke down a couple of green stocks using the VectorVest technology to identify some of the best earnings out there and momentum indicators out there. We break it down to a handful of stocks, and then you can come in each and every day and track to see how it is performing. All right, so I hope you got a lot out of it. I'll leave you with the last slide there. So if you want to take out a trial, you can take it out, or you can call our support team to take out the trial, 1-800-303-782. Feel free to email me at russellmarkham@vectorvest.com. All right, so russellmarkham@vectorvest.com, and don't forget the web page, www.vectorvest.com.au. All right, so I'll leave today's presentation on that web page. Let's hop along back to that web page. There it is, vectorvest.com.au. There you are. You can click to take out a risk-free trial. All right, so I hope you got a lot out of it. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget, this time next week, we've got our next talk coming up, and that will be on the almighty dividend aristocrats. work that we've done. So the great portfolio there, some of the best and most consistent dividend paying stocks over the last 30 to 40 years in Australia. Don't miss out on that one. I know there are a lot of people queuing up for that one. They can't wait to get going on that one. So same time, same place next week. Speak to you then. Bye for now.